A darker part of this, given to those migrant workers in Taiwan, is that many places will offer them a loan to help them pay for this placement fee. And when they come to Taiwan, they discover that the loan is almost double what was advertised in the Philippines, because remember, there's another middle person here in Taiwan. And welcome to Getting Pacific, where we're getting specific on trending topics straight from the newsroom at TaiwanPlus. I'm Joey Chow.
And I'm Michelle Chiang.
And for this episode of Getting Pacific, we're talking about the most overlooked pillar of Taiwan's economy.
A victory for Taiwan's migrant workers today after 10 Indonesian fishers say they worked for 15 months without pay. An investigation from Taiwan's government watchdog, the Control UN, has reached a verdict, throwing the spotlight on how this billion-dollar industry treats its workers. The investigation found a range of faults, including a lack of access to food, water, and living areas, and highlighted the gaps in Taiwan's labor laws, something that has become a focus for Taiwan's government. The Control UN says the Ministry of Labor has to do more to protect workers by more actively investigating potential violations, pointing to signs of a changing tide in how Taiwan's migrant workers should expect to be treated.
That was a report by John Su, Cadence Caranda, and Harel Hughes from the TaiwanPlus newsroom. As you can see or hear, there are quite a few issues that need to be addressed here with Taiwan's migrant workers, from a lack of employment benefits to conditions that approximate exploitation. We covered in previous episodes about Taiwan's dire need for foreign talent, and now the government is taking steps to incentivize their arrival, from setting up new government agencies and family service centers to providing counseling and language programs. But these benefits are almost exclusively for white-collar workers only. That be your product managers, market researchers, software engineers, etc. Today, we like to talk about their blue-collar counterparts, factory workers, fishing boat deckhands, domestic caretakers, etc., and how they are treated. And today, we'll be speaking with someone who's committed her entire career to representing, informing, and fighting for the rights of migrant workers in Taiwan. But first, we should start by clearing up some facts about the global migrant conditions. Michelle?
Yes, allow me to introduce the International Organization for Migration, also known as the IOM, a UN organization that implements operational assistance programs for migrants, refugees, and migrant workers. According to their World Migration Report, Europe, Asia, and North America host most of the world's migrant populations, 87, 86, and 59 million international migrants respectively, comprising 82% of the global international migrant stock. And out of the three, Asia experienced the most remarkable growth of migrant workers at nearly 75% increase from 2000 to 2020. That's an increase of nearly 40 million people in absolute terms. To give you an idea of what countries the migrant workers are from, in the US and Canada, two countries that heavily rely on immigrants and foreigners to support their economies, the majority of their temporary foreign worker visas are held by people from Mexico, Central America, India, China, the Philippines, and other Caribbean countries. In terms of large European countries like France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, migrant workers are mainly from other EU countries like Poland and Romania, Africa like Morocco or Algeria, or Asia like India and Indonesia. Finally, the economic centers of Asia, Singapore, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan mainly employ migrant workers from China, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, and India.
Yeah, let's leave out Singapore for a moment here, whose economy is almost entirely dependent on foreign workers, talent, and offshore investments. But compared to South Korea and Japan, Taiwan has the highest concentration of migrant workers. 1 in every 29 people that you see in the streets on this island is either from Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines, or Thailand. And they are largely divided into two categories: industrial and social welfare migrant workers. Industrial migrant workers are those who work in construction, manufacturing, and fishing, whereas social welfare migrant workers are family helpers or personal and institutional caregivers. Indonesian and Vietnamese migrant workers are much more populous than their Filipino and Thai counterparts. It might have to do with the fact that there are more Mandarin-speaking people from these two countries. So why does Taiwan employ so many migrant workers?
Two words: labor arbitrage. Although arbitrage is a word better used for products. When it's cheaper to buy something from, say, China, you order a large shipment and sell the goods to consumers who are willing to pay a premium for it in another country, say the US, and you profit from the difference. But goods, especially non-perishables, can be transported via containers stored in a warehouse for a very long time until the day they are sold and mailed to someone's porch. However, when the goods in question are low-wage workers, then you run into humanitarian issues like living conditions, health, welfare, and wage exploitation. And Taiwan labor brokers got very good at labor arbitrage, which explains why, out of the over 800,000 migrant workers in Taiwan, more than 10% are unaccounted for, also known as runaway migrant workers. Our guest today is Marie Yang, who's of Filipino heritage, but has committed her career to reporting and informing on the plight of all migrant workers in Taiwan. We first asked her what is the main difference between the migrant workers discussed today and the foreign talents the government has just passed new bills for in July.
The migrant workers are referred to as blue-collar workers, and the white-collar workers are those foreign professionals. They have special skills like foreign English teachers, engineers, IT, technology engineers, something like that. So they belong to these white-collar workers. The white-collar workers visa, the employer applies for a work permit, and then the applicant applies for that visa using that work permit, and then they go to the local ROC mission. In the Philippines, we call it the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office, something like that. But for the case of the migrant workers, they have to go through manpower agencies in Taiwan. I mean, the company applies through the manpower agencies. These manpower agencies, they apply for the work permit. They ask for, job order, contract verifications and everything. And then they send it to the Philippines. And then the worker would apply to another manpower agency in the Philippines. So see the difference? It's the white collar workers can just apply easily. No need to go middlemen. No need to pay a huge amount of placement fees or service fees, while the blue collar workers or the foreign migrant workers, they have to go through all this process. The employers in Taiwan will pay the manpower agencies in Taiwan to do the legwork, and then the worker in like Vietnam or Indonesia or the Philippines, the worker will have to pay a lot of money to the local agency in the Philippines. Although there is already a law to allow direct hiring, but for the industry sector, I think you have to apply to the government again, and very few companies would do that kind of thing because it's a lot of work to do.
Yes, as you can tell, it's a lot more complicated for migrant workers. Foreign talents, as in the white-collar workers, usually companies in Taiwan will seek them out and strike a deal, have some sort of contractual obligations before they apply for visas, work visas, for these potential workers from different parts of the world to come to Taiwan. But for migrant workers, and as we discussed, who are mainly from Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, they have to go through a middle person on their side of the country, while Taiwan's employers have to go through another middle person or organization on our side of the country. That means there are two different steps in between, and it leaves a lot more room for placement fees, hidden costs, and some of these costs can go up to thousands of US dollars, which is quite a lot considering that migrant workers don't get paid a lot.
Yeah, I'm just now realizing, having been an English teacher here, and the company I worked for processed my papers, applied for all the bits and bobs or whatever I needed for me, and it was actually surprisingly easy to become part of the legal workforce here in Taiwan. And listening to Marie describe the process for blue-collar migrant workers, that's a nightmare. Way too many cooks in the kitchen.
So before we dig deeper, how about let's do it in the forms of quizzes, Michelle?
Always. I love that this is just part of this show.
Yeah, exactly. So first one, how much do you think migrant workers have to pay in placement fees and service fees when they come to Taiwan to work? Let's take the case of Filipino migrant workers, for example. Do you think it's A, $500 US dollars? Is it B, $1,000 US dollars? Or is it C, $2,000 US dollars?
Wow. I mean, considering, as we know, they're not actually paid very much monthly, maybe around $1,000 US dollars, I would say maybe it will be B, $1,000 US dollars, like 1 month's wages in order to get placed.
Oh, that would have been nice, wouldn't it? It's actually C, $2,000 US dollars.
Ugh.
That's nearly 2 to 3 months' salary, like you said. They don't make a lot, right? But darker part of this is that many places will offer them a loan to help them pay for this placement fee. And when they come to Taiwan, they discover that the loan is actually higher than they expected, and it can total up to, say, $3,800 to $4,000, almost double what was advertised in the Philippines, because remember, there's another middle person here in Taiwan. And the program given to those migrant workers in Taiwan is to pay this loan off over the course of their contract, usually 3-year terms. That's taken out of their salaries, which means that the workers receive much less than what appears on paper, and the government might never know what the real number is.
That's messed up. We bellyache quite a bit about the taxes that are taken out of our paychecks, right? Yeah. So imagine having more more taken out of our paychecks via fees.
Yeah. The government takes 2% from contractors for the NHI, National Health Insurance, right? And already we kind of moan about it. But imagine having that much, like 30% out of your paycheck. That's a lot.
Yes.
So second question, what do you think is the average income that migrant workers receive here in Taiwan? Is it A, $500 a month? B, $1,000 a month, or C, $2,000 a month?
Oh, well, I just answered this in the first question.
I guess you did.
Yeah, right? Or maybe this should be the first question.
I messed up there for sure.
No, it's cool. I do kind of have a feel for how much people are paid here. They're not paid a lot, but are they paid as low as $500? Maybe not that low. So I'm gonna take the middle ground here and say B, $1,000.
Yeah. So again, the situation's worse than you thought. It is A, about $500.
Wow.
I know. So September this year, Taiwan's minimum monthly salary for Taiwanese people had been adjusted to around $900. It doesn't sound like much, but you can easily raise a family with average double income parents. Now, migrant workers, on the other hand, average from $400 to $700, depending on which industry you work for. That's about 45% to 75% of the minimum salary for Taiwanese workers. Now, imagine having even more deducted from it because you're paying off a placement fee loan.
Right. I mean, I would imagine that blue-collar workers, if it's following the trend that it is in the U.S., would be more highly valued these days because everybody's coming out of university. Taiwanese citizens are coming out of university with various degrees in whatnot, either bachelor's, master's, or PhDs, and there's actually not enough talent out there that knows how to, for example, rewire a house.
Right.
Or, fix plumbing. That kind of hands-on talent is becoming more rare. So I would have imagined that they're being paid more, but I guess not.
Yeah, I guess not. That is certainly the case in the U.S. and Canada, where, say, carpentry, electricians, nurses are paid a lot more because there is obviously a shortage of people who do those jobs. Apparently not here in Taiwan, certainly not for the migrant workers. Now, number 3 might answer some of those questions as to why that is happening. So under the labor law, how many years of employment do you need to be eligible for pension, do you think? Now, in other words, how many years of employment insurance and benefits do you need to pay the government before you can get the money back when you decide to retire? Is it A, 5 years? Is it B, 10 years? Or is it C, 15 years?
Well, just the words pension and retirement make me think that it's longer. So you have to be like a active member of the workforce before you can take back those benefits. So I'm going to say C, 15 years.
Yep, you're definitely on the money with that one. You have to work for 15 years. Once you hit the age of 55, you can choose to have the 15 years of employment insurance or, the money that you put into your pension fund slowly paid back to you. Now, the reason for asking that question is going to become really apparent in 1 second as we ask our guest Marie, how many years are migrant workers allowed to stay here in Taiwan?
Currently, a blue-collar worker or a migrant worker can stay in Taiwan for 12 years maximum for those working in the industrial sector like those factories, and then some agricultural workers would also qualify for that. And the only exception are the live-in caregivers where they get to stay in Taiwan a maximum of 14 years. So after that, they need to go back home and will not be able to come back to Taiwan until in April 30th, 2022, the Ministry of Labor implemented the long-term retention of skilled foreign workers program, And this applies to industries that already hire foreign workers, so including those in the manufacturing sector, slaughterhouse industry, construction, agricultural, and the long-term care sector, those in the nursing homes. But you know what? There are still restrictions, although this already allows those migrant workers to stay beyond 12 years or stay beyond 14 years, but there is a quota. For manufacturing sector, it's only 25% of the total workforce of the foreign workers, something like that.
Oh, let me extrapolate from that for you. It used to be that for most industries, migrant workers can work here in Taiwan for 12 consecutive years. And the industry that can work the most years are the lived-in caretakers, or basically people who do the jobs of nurses. And they can only stay here for 14 years, which kind of just conveniently ducks under that 15 years before pension payments come in. Now, that's sort of been fixed, as in there's a quota allowing certain migrant workers to stay longer, which allows them for pension payments. There seems to be no cap, as in no cap of years, for lived-in caretakers that you can stay here, which sounds like a great thing, right? But guess what? They're not protected under the labor insurance, so they don't pay labor premium, means that they don't get pension at all. So that all sounds a bit weird.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like this entire workforce is being taken advantage of. Anyone who puts in 15 plus years should definitely be eligible for some amount of, care in their older age. And it's just that entire detailing definitely rubbed me the wrong way.
Oh, yeah. I know how we all feel about that. As over the last few years, migrant workers' rights and their living conditions have come to light. What does it take for migrant workers to have a better living conditions, and what contracts or what deals do they have to strike with their employers to at least enjoy a little bit more freedom, liberty, and ease of living, improved living here in Taiwan? Well, we asked Marie about that too.
And that with that long-term retention program, they said after 5 years, that worker, as long as they are applied as mid-level skilled worker or intermediate skilled worker, they can apply the APRC or the Alien Permanent Resident Certificate. But the difference, blue-collar worker, employer can pay these workers as much as 59,000 or 60,000 new Taiwan dollars in a month. I don't think so. And that is one of the eligibility to apply for an APRC. So even if there's a law, I don't think there's any way these people can apply for an APRC, because when you are an APRC, you can just transfer without the brokerage system. You don't need to pay these brokers or middlemen. You have the freedom to choose your own job.
So as you can hear, I really want to avoid the word modern slavery, but I guess I just said it. The cost of freedom is about 56,000 Taiwan dollars, as in you need to have an employer to agree to pay you that much, at least, to apply for an APRC, which frees you from having to work with a middleman institution or employment headhunter for migrant workers here in Taiwan, and actually choose a job that you want.
I didn't know that.
Right.
That's a terrible number because it's above average pay for generally here in Taiwan. So in order for a migrant worker, especially blue collar, to make it to the 56,000 NT dollars or higher is really difficult. And man, that definitely does bring in the, as you said, modern slavery concept, where they have a lot of trouble climbing out of this particular hole.
For sure. And even for us, Taiwanese, like you said, that's an above average salary for sure. Usually you expect foreign talents coming to Taiwan, the companies would pay them a little bit more. And that certainly is the case. I'm sure that was the case for you when you came in on an APRC as an English teacher.
It is.
But that is a good income for living in Taiwan. And certainly migrant workers are usually barred from that. So if you did not quite enjoy what you heard today and you would like to voice your concern, there's a channel, the Migrant Empowerment Network in Taiwan, MENT. It's an alliance of migrant workers association. They called out the Taiwanese government in protest for the lack of streamlined operations for direct hiring of migrant workers, and also to address the issues of exploitation from these middleman headhunter institutions. So you can check them out. We'll definitely leave more information in the show notes. And that about wraps up today's episode. Since we spent a couple episodes on foreign talents, as in the white-collar workers, we thought we also pay our homage to the blue-collar workers. Thank you for joining us, and I hope we got Pacific enough for you. I am Joey Chow, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Joey Taipei. If you'd like to give us an idea or share your thoughts, toss us your 2 cents about the show, don't be shy. Feel free to write to joey@gettingpacific.com.
And I'm Michelle Chiang. You can usually find me over on Radio Taiwan International, where I host the show Geek Out and Jukebox Journeys. But if you want to talk to me, you can find me at Phoenix Dice, basically on all social media, because I am the Chief Phoenix Wrangler at phoenixdice.com, where you can get your Dungeons & Dragons dice and other adventuring gear stuff.
Yep. And if you want even more news and views from Taiwan and around the world, check out the huge catalog of news and entertainment on our website, TaiwanPlus.com, as well as YouTube, Instagram, or Twitter. Thank you for listening, and we hope you'll join us again on Getting Pacific.